You have to hammer and hammer and hammer. And if we don't do that, I mean, that shit doesn't feel good, right? I'm not sitting here telling you, oh, we're gonna heal the divide between races with a shared narrative about class, okay? Like, oh, warm and fuzzy and great. I'm here to tell you, no, we have to go and fucking be like, these motherfuckers are stealing your shit, dude. It can't be about us. It should be about them and what they're doing. So, it's tough to get Democrats to want to do that. But like the prices, I mean, look, this guy's paying the price. People who didn't
Yep.
want to get mean in 24, don't even not want to hear this, okay?
Yeah.
But the reason that this man is sitting in that prison in an extraordinary rendition, a gay man in an El Salvadorian prison, is
Yep.
because we refused to do something that was a little mean.
Hello and welcome to Erich McElroy's American Exchange with me, Erich McElroy. Whew, and what a political exchange we have going on right now, where it seems like normally I'm dialing across the pond to find out what is happening in America. And right now it feels like America is reaching across all of the ponds everywhere to just grab everyone by the you know what. It looks like Donald Trump has decided that the entire world is someone for him to grab, and that's exactly what he's doing. It's been an insane couple of weeks. We've gone from Signalgate, which seemed to break through the noise of normal people who don't just focus on politics all the time, caring about what's going on, and now we've had Trump tariffing and tanking the U.S. economy. Now, breaking through the noise is something that my guest is perfectly timed to discuss with us. It's Rachel Bitecofer. She's a political scientist, political forecaster, turned political strategist. She's the writer of one of my favorite books, which I've got right here, Hit 'em Where It Hurts, which is about how to save democracy by beating Republicans at their own game. And she is perfectly placed to talk about what to do in this moment. She also has continued her Substack, The Cycle, since we last talked last September. And she also now has a podcast herself called This Is America, where she talks about current politics and comparing this moment of where we're at with the rise of Nazism in World War II, or right before World War II. She is incredible and clear on her messaging with her book, Hit 'em Where It Hurts, being targeted in how we have to communicate with normal people who are the electorate. And this is the moment to hammer home the one person who is trying to destroy the US economy is Donald Trump. The one person behind the tax on Social Security is Donald Trump. Hammer, hammer, hammer. So she, of course, reinforces that message as only she can. It's incredible to talk to her and just reflect on where we're at. And, Trump is an assault, and the mega group is an assault on democracy. And so many different things, and they're going so fast. Maybe they've gotten ahead of themselves finally. So we talk about all of that in this podcast. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's so great to talk to Rachel again. Make sure to check out her podcasts and stuff, which will all be in the description. So please enjoy Rachel Bitecofer. Oh, and if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel because we are trying to grow the YouTube space, and I do put comedy clips up here as well. So, in the meantime, please enjoy Rachel Bitecofer. I'm very excited to welcome back to the podcast one of my favorite guests because I loved her book. I love talking to her. And as always, I often like to start this with just reaching back across as I am all the way over here in London to find out how are things going over there, Rachel?
Smashing.
Ah, yeah. Smashing the economy,
Yeah,
smashing
yeah,
the
yeah.
American
Double
dream,
entendre there, right? Like, yeah, we're
smashing.
smashing, man. We are literally smashing the entire global economy over here. And, watching the American reputation of 80 years as a good guy in the world, as a stabilizing force in the world, just eviscerate within 2 months of Donald Trump being sworn in as king, I mean, president. So it is not going well.
Yeah, I mean, well, I know a lot of people because a lot of James Carville was, was kind of took a lot of heat by saying we should just sit back and let them fuck up, basically.
No,
Let
he's
let
not
them
wrong.
keep digging. And it
Yes.
seems that he has been vindicated because the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks have been pretty phenomenal fuck ups,
Yeah.
one after another.
Yeah. Carvel and I are of the same mind on this. And I took a lot of heat, but also, wanted to cover Schumer because that's the one time he ever did anything strategically smart was the CR through and avoid the shutdown. Like, guys, right now we have a one-man wrecking crew. Like never in the history of the country has someone inherited a growing economy and then
Mm,
come in and announced a policy every economist said don't do. Okay, so it's
yep.
not like he was like dealing with a crisis or something. He had a good economy and he has ruined it, right? And if the Democrats had gotten involved, I mean, we also have Doge and what Elon's doing. So if the Democrats had gotten involved in that, the narrative for the dumb people of America, it gets confusing. So it has to be real obvious. Like, oh, A caused B. Okay.
Mm,
Trump caused economy to crash. Now you want to introduce C and oh well, the government shutdown and Democrats also one more point, just because I think people need to hear it. When they shut the government down, they have leverage. You want to know why, Eric?
mm,
Because we want the government open.
yep.
When we shut the government down, do we have leverage, Eric? No, we
No.
don't. Why? Because they fucking want it shut. They
Yeah.
want it shut. Like we're giving them what they want. So I get why emotionally, I'm a strategist. Nobody thinks strategically. Everyone thinks emotionally.
Of
I
course.
get why emotional thinkers wanted them just to finally fight. This is the first chance fight, but it would have been the wrong fight, and it would have caused us to lose the war. So thank God the Carvels and I of the world managed to convince these Democrats not to get in the way.
Because I think because one of the things that I've learned from reading your book and talking to you is that your messaging is all about making it real for people who don't generally tune into politics.
Right.
And I think something that's so simple about that, and it just personifies it more than anything else, is that coffee is not grown in the United States.
That's right.
And they've put a 10% tax on essentially every country in the world, except
Oh,
Russia,
my
which I don't
beautiful.
believe Russia grows coffee. You've got your coffee there for the
Like you
podcast
guys don't
listeners.
understand I'll
Given
tell
it.
you after you finish your question. Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
Americans like yourself, we drink a lot of coffee.
Yes, we do.
So go knowing what I know, and I obviously I'm asking you a leading question, would you say that adding a 10% tax on one of the things that Americans consume every day, multiple times a day, is a stupid political idea?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And here's the other thing, guys. Like everyone thinks I have this giant heart, and I do. I've got the head of a capitalist and the heart of a communist. Okay. So I do half my work for free or whatever, right? But I like my espresso. And
Hmm.
in a post-trading global stasis, stable economy, stable world, there ain't gonna be no coffee, guys. We can't grow it here, dude. Like, you know what I mean? And like I like espresso. I don't this thing, by the way, has hit 8.15 a cup. This drink here
What?
I'm holding in my hand
Oh
is
my God.
$8.15. Okay. So 10% on that, guys. I mean, I if I wasn't addicted, would have been priced out a long time ago, right? So like people are not going to take that well, no.
Hmm. I wonder if people are going to start doing tourism trips to Canada just so they can get a cup of coffee. That'll be the new tourist trades. They cross the border, have a coffee,
Well,
and then
I'm
return.
in the resistance until the coffee runs out. And then after that, I'm fleeing into exile, guys. I got to be honest. I just can't do it?
That'll be the line for you.
Yes,
Um,
the
I, I mean, as far as those simplistic, so I mean, this feels like a moment, the last week since the tariffs were announced. This feels like so
it
incredibly
is.
breaking through. This is a huge turn. And I,
Yes.
and we're right in and that's following, which was only a week and a half before that, was Signalgate, where we saw that the national people leading our national defense are tweeting each or texting each other on a non-secure platform. That
Yes.
broke through as well because I had people here when I was going to get my coffee in the UK making jokes to me about it. Like, well, are you WhatsApping us war plans to invade Canada? Like it
No
broke through
doubt. Oh,
internationally.
yes. I
So
mean,
that's
internationally, they're paying better attention to what's happening here than we are.
well, that's true.
That's why I said the only hope that we ever had was that he would fuck up the economy because that's the
Mm,
only thing. Like people in England, they don't understand. Like our people don't know who their senators are.
yeah.
Let alone be able to evaluate something like Doge. Okay, like we are a civically illiterate population, and that is because our political culture cultures us to be illiterate. It actually
Mm,
encourages you not to be a voter. So like you'll meet people and I try not to tell strangers what I do, but they dig, and I'm like, well, politics. Oh yeah, I don't do any of that. Yeah, and like they mean it. Like so what they're saying is, I don't vote, I don't read the news, and
Yeah.
I don't participate in self-government. Okay. And I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed about it. It's not like I skipped my Peloton workout and I'm like, oh yeah, I skipped my workout like whole week.
Mm.
No, I'm proud. People are proud in America to be illiterate, civic illiterates. Like they think they're morally superior to the rest of us. That's 50% of our adult population, Eric. 50%.
Yeah. It's
Half of
just
the half of everybody. If you're in an auditorium, half of that auditorium doesn't even fucking vote.
so because I mean, we're at a tricky stage because right now the Democrats really don't have a single leader because we don't have somebody to focus around. We are still a year and a half away from any consequential elections or the big election, obviously the midterms. So how do we assuming that, there's not I mean, now we're in mid collapse of the economy. I mean, how do we capitalize and focus on these things? Because Signalgate seemed a breakthrough moment. And then on top of that, we're adding now this crash.
Right.
What do we do to get leverage that helps us move forward?
Yeah, so I mean, people who do follow my work and are familiar with it are going to kind of understand this better. But I've been we could all see, and all of us have seen coming. And
Hmm.
once he won the election, I told people, look, the only thing that's going to be able to stop them now is if he goes through with this crazy tariff shit that he says he wants to do and breaks
Yeah.
the economy. Because by the time that tuned out public I was just describing to you, like by the time they tuned in and realized that they had consolidated the executive branch into this imperial presidency, which is what
Hmm.
Project 2025 is all about, like it would have been too late to do anything about it. But because Trump is dumb, like he is crazy and he's dumb, and he's very good at one thing. He's very good at marketing and branding and TV and narrative.
Hmm.
But everything else, he's really, really dumb. Okay. Like the dumbest thing they could have done is tank the economy while trying to seize power. Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like what they should have done is just let go along to be along, give lip service to this thing he's going to do someday. And the market handicaps him big time anyway, right? Do. And then once they had I mean, they're about 40% of Project 2025, by the way. But
I
once
was
they
going to
got
ask you for an
in,
update on that. Yeah.
yeah. When they got all in, then when the public has no power to stop you, then you can do
Yeah.
whatever, right? But I knew they weren't strategists and they're not good and they're so crazy they can't be smart. That they
Hmm.
have fucked up royally. So to answer your question, Eric, yes, there has been a sea change this week. That sea change comes from the fact that they've destroyed the one thing Americans don't ignore, their own money, their
Yeah.
own business, right? And if we're lucky, this, will continue. It's
Hmm.
sad that we have to root for our economy to collapse, but if we're lucky, the economic turmoil will be so severe that it sparks a mass backlash. And what we're already seeing is a lot of Trump people, not just like loose people, because he's got 40 million MAGA voters that are like Kool-Aid drinking. They think the election was stolen. They think Dr. Fauci is a career criminal, not a,
Yeah.
renowned Nobel winning prize scientist or whatever, right? They have this whole alt reality, but he got 75 million votes, guys. Okay. So where's that
Hmm.
other 35 million? Well, that other 35 million today is shitting its pants is where it's at. I'm going to tell you, it's shitting its
Yeah.
pants. Like I voted for this guy. And again, they don't know who their senators are because he said he was going
Hmm.
to make things cheaper. He was going to get
Yeah.
us eggs. He was going to make us great again. Okay. Fifth grade level stuff. And now, instead of fixing things, he has broken them. And nobody's ever put their own fingerprint so strongly on such a dumb policy. It's one thing to experiment when you're in crisis, okay? When you're way down here and everything's
Hmm.
all fucked up and you do something different and it doesn't work, whatever. But when shit's humming and you come in and do this thing that everyone told you not to do. So to
Yeah.
me, not only could it maybe save us in the short term because we're talking about really trying to evade losing America into autocracy, but it also could be the thing that finally allows Democrats to rebrand as they should be branded as the
Hmm.
party that with economic deliverables, because the Republican Party has economic deliverables for exactly one group. Okay,
Yeah.
one group of people, and that's the billionaire class, right? That's it. There's no economic deliverables to small businesses and all of this and that. They don't care, right? Just
Mm.
those Elon Musk type people. And the party that has delivered for the working class, who brought 20 million people off of the uninsured rolls, which would have been 40 million if Republicans hadn't blocked Medicaid expansion. That
Yeah.
party has no reputation at all economically of delivering for the people. So it's going to be a good chance for Democrats to kind of re-seize that.
Do you think the one thing I haven't seen anybody address, or maybe I just have missed it if it has been talked about, is why do you think he's moving so fast? Doge has been lightning speed, and then bringing, one thing on top of the other on top of the other with such intensity. Like it
Yes.
is out of time, but well, I mean, he's already joked about running again, so he's got all the time that he needs. Have you seen anyone discussing it, or what do you think the urgency is?
I mean, this is Bannon's strategy, right? And it's a
Mm,
strategy that they evolved together and really, I think, really saw the power of in the first term because it was also like that, big bombshell, big bombshell, constantly, right? And Bannon talks about it all the time in his war room pod. When we get into office, when he's sworn in, we're going to move
mm,
fast and furious. We're going to flood the zone, and we're going to make it so there's so many stimuli that the opposition is divided, distracted, unable to coalesce, right?
right.
And it would have worked really great if they hadn't fucked with the economy, right? But like I mean, it's just so bad. We're very lucky because the Nazis were not dumb. Okay, they're evil,
Mm,
but they weren't dumb. Like,
yeah.
Trump is dumb. I mean, he is literally a dumb man. Like, if you read some of the reporting from first term, he goes down to the tank with the military generals, and they're like, man, this man is a functional moron, and he's in charge of
Yeah.
our military, right? Like, we know he's not bright. We know he doesn't read the briefings, that you could tell him something anyway, and if it doesn't fit with what he wants it to be, like tariffs, then he just doesn't hear you, right? So,
Yeah.
like, we're very lucky that they're so bad at autocracy and that
Yeah.
our system, unlike the Nazis, when they collapsed power, it only took them 6 months, but they had a much less stable system to do it to. Like ours is 250 years almost
Mm,
stable, right? I mean, we've had the Civil War, we've had other upsets, but generally speaking, our institutions are very, very entrenched, right?
yeah.
So, I think that they could have done. I mean, I still don't know what the outcome here is going to be, guys. We're
Yeah.
50 on America being the next evil empire, okay?
Yeah.
But if we evade it, it's going to be because they were too dumb to consolidate power first and then do what they wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, I've said a number of times that the only thing that's going to save us is their incompetency because they have,
Yes.
especially once they won all three, have all three branches of government in their control,
Yes.
with the Supreme Court having handed, basically immunity to everything to
Yes.
Trump. And he knows that. I mean, I'm sure the
Yes.
pardons are already written for Don Jr. and
Oh
Eric
my
and, maybe not Tiffany because she seems to always be on the outs. But anyway, um, do you, all right, pivoting a little bit. Let's talk about Doge. I mean, do you think, because that's another area where I thought this is going to break through as well, because they're attacking so many fundamental things.
yes.
I've actually even, in addition to doing stand-up comedy, the other thing I've done with my life is work in U.S. federal aid. Those two things go
Okay.
together hand in
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah,
Every
they do.
financial aid administrator is known for having a fantastic sense of humor.
I'm
Um,
sure they are.
and that impacts people coming to the UK because there's Americans that take their loans overseas and they've gutted the department that supports the program. The dollars are still flowing at the moment, but there's about $1.5 billion that goes to foreign schools around the world.
Wow.
And obviously they've put under threat financial aid in general, which
Yep.
to me is almost as much a third rail as Social Security is. Because if people can't send their kids to college, that's going to impact so many people.
Yeah.
So, again, the attack on these things that are definitely going to make people realize there's something happening. The Social Security website keeps breaking down.
That's
Veterans
right.
are losing their benefits.
They're
Like,
trying to
I
close the
mean,
offices. I mean, of the, you know what I
yeah.
mean? And here's the good part. Like, all right, I just put out a piece on the cycle like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever. Because it comes from a guy named David Shore. He runs this Blue Rose Research and is their election post autopsy. But anyway, in part of the survey data, he's got, a graph that shows, who do you trust, Republicans or Democrats in a various bunch
Mm,
of issues, right? And you look at they didn't notice this in their data, but I did. So I took it and I'm using that graph in a different way because what it shows is that when you ask respondents, like which party is going to protect Social Security, they are just as likely to say Republicans as Democrats, guys. Yes,
Why?
yes, yes.
Oh my
Medicare, I mean,
God.
the only thing, by the way, that people clearly associate with Democrats right now is gay rights. Okay, which is good. I mean, that's a good
Mm,
thing to, as a human, especially to be associated with. But like, we don't need to keep doing that. They know that. But
yeah.
Social Security, Medicare, healthcare, education, all 50-50, all 50-50,
Oh.
guys. Okay. So like that, that work has to get done and has to happen. But it is important for people to know that like these effects are real, they're on the ground, they hit some of these places right away. I mean, I remember seeing a
Mm,
video of a Trump voter crying. She voted for Trump. She had a federal job in West Virginia and she got laid
yeah.
off, right? Like I only wanted other people's lives to be ruined, right? But
Yeah.
like that's happening a lot of places everywhere because guess what? The map of the United States, right, with all that deep red, it's all land, it's
Mm,
not people. And
yep.
and like the way the resources work, right? States are remitting tax revenue to the government, and then the states are getting government money, right? Most of
Yep.
the red states are imbalanced. Okay, so the blue states send more than they get back. The red states get more than they send. Okay.
Yeah.
So the people who are the most fucked when the federal budget gets fucked like that are his people, his very
Yep.
own voters. And, that might not, sadly enough, Eric, that may not have been enough on its own. But because he
Mm,
has combined it with this dumbass tariff stuff, I mean, I thought surely, I mean, because he paused it the first time and then he wussed out again.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, they've convinced him just like on the jittery reactions that they saw that this is a bad idea. But nope, he did it. And you know what? It's going to make us all broke. I mean, I'm going to be affected. We're all affected. So it's
Yeah.
not like, I'm immune to it. I'm going to pay, right? But it is the only way that we wake up average America. And I think this weekend, what we saw is that that's starting to happen. Okay. We saw
Mm,
turnout at these rallies for the hands off rallies that mirrored 2017, which means it's like kind of tapping out like the resistance left. Okay.
yeah.
It's maxing. What matters is, can it grow beyond that? Can it become John and Jane Q. Public out there who had their business ruined, whose
Yeah.
mother they can't, got kicked off of insulin or whatever it is, right? And if we can get there, I mean, where do we go from there, right? Donald
Yeah.
Trump's never going to modulate behavior. So
Mm,
impeachment, whatever, right? But, the one thing we know for sure is that every moment he sits in that office is a bad moment for the world, not just for America.
yeah. And if the momentum behind what's happened in the last week continues, then that's what again saves us because if they had properly consolidated power, they would have, definitely put their finger on the scale with elections. And that, worried me. Like, how are we going to have fair elections under this environment when they're
Well, we still
ignoring
should be very worried about that. Very
Yes, but
worried.
if the wave is so strong in the opposite direction,
Right.
because the other thing is coming up, we're coming up into summertime. That's when Americans head to the national parks, which are
Yep.
also getting fucked.
Yes.
And when people turn up at those parks and they're closed, that's going to be another like, oh, what
Yes.
happened moment.
Yes. Oh, and I'm going to tell you, most of the people are going to be like, oh, there was an issue? Like,
Yep.
oh, that happened? Like, they don't know, guys. And
See,
that's how we got here. Like, to get out long term, right? We got to fix that problem. But yes, like, honestly, most of the women in Texas
mm,
don't know that there's an abortion ban, who've been caught up in that abortion ban, never even knew there was a ban until they went in and had a miscarriage and then got all this weird shit happening to them, right? And that's the first time they ever
that's
heard. Like they don't, people like the way we are like government and life, right? Life and government all
mm,
together. No, it's invisible. Like there's life. They're only life.
mm,
There's none of this. None of this is happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are the other I guess if we hadn't had the economy almost crash this weekend, I'd be asking you, what are the other like the national parks? What are the other things that you see coming down the line that are going to kind of wake people up to go, holy fuck?
Well, the Social Security shit was major. So when I was trying to say too, when I talked about, so Social Security has tipped up 15 points in terms of people's wariness that it might get cut.
Mm,
Right?
okay.
That's good news because it means
Right.
there's natural angst from what he did with the offices. And, we
Yep.
got Martin O'Malley, the former head of Social Security, warning that the check may not come sometime, right? So
Mm,
we're starting to see people believe, because some of it is, they felt that like that was like both parties had that, right?
yeah.
So, and that's on us. We really fucked that up, right? But they think anyway that Republicans and Democrats are pretty both supportive of Social Security. So,
Mm,
getting them to fear Republicans, that was step one, like
yep.
fear change or attack of it. And there is real angst there now to tap into and heighten and manipulate to make sure that people are really focused in on that issue, because that issue could wipe them off the stage in 2026. Yeah.
Well, yes. Again, it's all about, it's unfortunate that it has to be about people suffering, but I guess you're right. No one pays attention to anything else because otherwise they just blithely go along and la
Yeah.
di da di da di da. Um, One of the things I want to ask about is money in politics is obviously a huge issue in the States. Musk famously spent $250 million to help elect Trump and bought his way in and all of these
Yeah.
things. But then Musk dumped millions of dollars in Wisconsin and lost the Supreme
Yeah.
Court seat there by big margins, 10 points,
Yes.
I think 11 points, where Trump
Yes.
won the state by just 1%. So does that show that money isn't necessary? Like money is a problem in politics. I think that's known. But if the momentum is that strong, then does that wash out the money advantage?
I mean, no, I mean, it didn't here because Susan Crawford had money to compete. Okay. But
Okay.
like, let's say Elon wants to go fuck around with some of these house races, right?
Yeah.
Where the other candidate can't offset that spending, right?
Okay.
And then, here's the thing. Elon Musk is toxic as fuck. Okay. He is an albatross hanging around the neck of every Republican on every ballot that we're going to see. It was the specials last week. We've got the Virginia gubernatorial cycle coming up. And
Hmm.
then we go into 2026, right? Elon, no one elected Elon. Okay.
Yeah.
And everyone at these town halls, who are they yelling about? They're yelling about Doge and Elon and Trump, right? So
Yeah.
it is Elon is the wedge. Elon, Social Security, they're coming for your shit. That is the wedge that we need to be wedging as we move through the electoral year. But I have to tell folks, we have an election down here in North Carolina, one of our states, where the candidate that won, okay, for a
Hmm.
judgeship had the GOP refused to concede and give her the victory after the recount. So they've been
Yep.
litigating it, right? And who are they litigating it? Well, they're litigating it in the state court system. Now, this is a state Supreme Court seat. Okay.
Yep.
And recently it's hitting these Republican judges where so they get to decide, are they going to honor the will of the people, or are they going to like let the GOP backdoor steal the Supreme Court seat? And they keep
Yep.
giving favorable rulings to the GOP. Okay. So like
Yeah.
we're in a very dangerous bad spot. And I just think it's very important for people to understand like how bad it is
Hmm.
with that. Yeah.
It's on the scale of bad, it's bad.
It's very bad.
Um, I want to just look back a little bit because the last time we talked was right before the 2024 election, and we were both feeling a little bit good about Kamala. We were feeling good about her. This was right after she had taken the reins. It was after the
Yeah.
debate, and I think having just finished reading your book, and I said this to you, it felt like they were stealing the ideas from your book. They were
They
taking, not
were
stealing, but you had given,
until,
and and I'm going to say this before you say it. I saw them turn away from what you
yes,
recommend. They got all
yes,
kind of mushy and tried to be a joyful campaign too much at the end. I mean,
yeah,
they unfortunately they had to stay on the message of they're coming for you, and it felt like they
yes.
walked away from that.
Yes, because the Meltway media told them no one knows what Kamala stands for. She needs to be defined. And
Hmm.
our all right. So if you guys ever saw that show back, I don't know, 2000 HBO show, and it was about a news anchor and a news show,
Yeah.
and it starts off with him like there's some students like, why is America the greatest country on earth? And he goes on this big rambling rant about how actually we suck so bad, right? But then he says, in the middle of that rant, he turns to the Democrat on the panel, the Democratic strategist, and he goes, and if you're so goddamn smart, why do you lose so goddamn always? Like that's what happened. Okay. Like
Yeah.
I'm coming from the outside. What I'm doing, my work is not messing around in the tree branches of the Democratic strategy. It's saying, nope, whole tree, root and branch gone. You do it all wrong
Mm,
from the base, not from up there, right? And it's a radical approach. But yes, it is exceedingly frustrating. And I'll tell you what we see in the exit poll data is that 60% of swing voters had a favorable memory of Donald Trump's first term.
yeah.
That's on us. Okay, we did that, and we did that because our very smart data people, like, oh, the voters already baked in about Trump. No, guys, that's yes. If they were like you, they would be baked in about Trump. They are
Yeah.
not like you, and not only are they not like us, they are not like us. They don't know who their senators are. And think about how you would interpret the last 2 months if you're an American who doesn't know who
Mhm.
your senators are.
Yeah.
Because, like, if in order to not know who your senators are, right, you can't really be reading news, or
Yeah.
eventually you would find out. Like, so, it was very painful to see the pivot, especially because of the work on Project 2025 that we had done. Yeah,
Yeah. And making it mainstream and making it toxic and making the Republicans on the back foot about it.
we
I
were
mean,
right
and I was
there,
gonna, and
right there.
so how far? You said earlier you think they're about through 40% of Project 2025. Is
Yeah, in
that?
fact, I just got I had seen this before and I had forgot about it, but somebody reminded me yesterday. There's this thing called a Project 2025 tracker that I have on my Twitter account. People can go get it. And it is very good. It's very well
Hmm.
done. And it will track each little thing too and shows you what they've completed and what's still outstanding. So it is about 40%, 46% of what they want to do. Now keep in mind, 63% of Trump 1 gets implemented.
Yeah.
65% of Ronald Reagan in 1980 gets implemented. These motherfuckers are shooting for 100.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what the power consolidation. Let's see if they bring home this guy who is in an El Salvadorian prison for no reason,
Yeah.
a brutal prison where you like basically you become ghosted. So he's got no access to family, to talking to anyone, to lawyers,
Yeah.
and he's not supposed to be there. And they've known that, by the way, now for a long time. And as
Yeah.
the his lawyer said, look, I've done deportation cases. Usually when there's a mistake, as soon as that mistake is identified, the ball starts moving to get this motherfucker back, right? And
Yeah.
instead, the judges had to order it back, and there's a midnight order, and now they're trying to appeal to the Supreme Court. What the court does will be very telling, right? Because
Yeah.
what they should do is reject the repeal, right? There's nothing here for the court to do. And if they take the case, that's a bad sign, whatever, right? Because
Yeah.
these people, for better or for worse, the fate of our republic comes down to two things. Will the public get pitchfork mad over losing all their money?
Yeah.
Okay. And B, can we get oh man, I just lost my train of thought there.
With
Yeah.
with the courts.
Yeah, with the courts.
With the
And can we get the
yeah.
courts? Can we get the rules enforced? Because I think
Yeah.
the rulings are not going to be an issue, folks. Like,
Yeah.
my confidence in the Supreme Court completely eroded after the immunity decision. I
Yeah.
was confident because the circuit court, the 11th DC circuit, it was a unanimous rejection of
Yeah.
the idea of an untouchable president. Okay. And like now, there's no way I would ever have any faith in them ever again for anything.
Yeah.
That said, their record in Trump 1 sided with against Trump almost every single time.
Mm.
And these court decisions aren't, this is why these judges are like up in arms. These are not complicated cases.
No.
They are outrageously unconstitutional and outrageously outside of the structure of the law, right? So, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Comey Barrett, Roberts, and Alito and Thomas. Now Thomas and Alito are all on board with whatever. Like they
Yeah.
want to, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
But is there a question about John Roberts? And we need one more. We can't even just do it with Roberts. So it has to
Yeah.
be Amy Comey Barrett, or it has to be Kavanaugh, right? Or it
Yeah.
has to be Gorsuch. So it's it is tough to believe that, we're going to make it through this, but I will tell people I've been studying a lot of world history. And there's like, if you watch, when we read history, like it's a story that's finished, but if you try to like
Mm,
divorce yourself of knowing what comes next when you study history and like try to put yourself into the uncertainty of not knowing the next outcome, there are
yeah,
so many times in history where we look done. Okay. We look like we were going to lose World War II. It
yeah.
looked like we were going to lose the Civil War. So like shit can turn on a dime and it's too early to know if we've really hit that pivot. But it
Mm,
is possible from what I'm seeing on the MAGA, like there's a lot of people in MAGA who are screwed right now.
yeah.
Bitcoiners yelling about how, they've lost all their money, like
Well, that
Rand
one,
Paul, right? So like maybe we can all join together and get rid of this freak,
yeah.
maybe.
Well,
Hope
because
springs eternal.
more than anything else, they care about their money. So
That's right.
that is, so I
Yeah, and the
guess,
judges, and that's the safety valve, by the way, with the judges,
hmm,
right? What are the judges? So what is the judge's motivation to make themselves obsolete? Because
hmm,
right now they're the most important people in the country.
yeah,
And the second that they rule on Trump and let him do his imperial shit, they have really removed their power. So
yeah.
like they may not care about us, but they might care about their own power.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Again, the things that we have to hang our hat on are
I know.
terrifying.
Yeah.
So, all right. So in our last few minutes, um, right, I mean, obviously, it's hard to even, I mean, I guess it's almost like too big of a thing with this happening with the economy this week that we're talking. Because if it had just been Signalgate, I would have been, do we focus on attacking them on the national security incompetence or social security? I mean, how do you message through all of this? Is it just now
Oh, it's
he's
so
fucked your
easy.
economy, he's
Oh,
fucked your 401k?
oh my
That's
God,
it.
yes. And the thing is like he goes on camera and says, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
So, like, all you got to do is take the man on the stump with his promise and then the delivery. Okay. If we do
Hmm.
that contrast, because here's the thing, we all know Trump's a liar, but the people who vote for him do not.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't believe it. They didn't want to believe it. And part of that is that you don't want to believe something, you're never going to believe it. But when you've lost your job, your house, your business, this and that wanting to believe factor kind of changes, right? And that's our opportunity to get in there and get these Trump voters, that not the 40 million nutties that want the white supremacy, but the other 35 less knowledgeable hanger-oners who are basically voting brand, and they're definitely voting celebrity with Trump, right?
Hmm.
Those people are redeemable. Like,
Yeah.
and we need to the way that we redeem them is the same way that I'll go to red states and they'll say, well, Rachel, how are we going to get Republicans to vote for us by insulting Republicans? The same way that they did it to us. Okay? They
Hmm.
didn't go in and tell the voters that were voting Democrats they were the problem. They went in and told the voters that were voting Democrats, you shouldn't vote Democrat because they are fucking you over. They've left you behind. All they
Yeah.
care about is trans people, blah, 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 right? So there's a huge strategic opportunity here for us to go in and that reachable segment of his electorate, convince them that they got lied to, and who should they be mad at? The man that lied at them, right? Lied to them.
Hmm.
So,
I mean, because they did spend 2 years blaming Biden for high inflation. So, I mean,
yes.
that was the message that even Republicans or Democrats even seem to parrot by the end, because that's what they
Yes.
do is they just hammer and hammer and hammer
Oh,
and hammer.
yes. Yes. And that's what
Um,
we have to do too. Like I'm trying
yeah.
to build that, but I need money. So you have to hammer and hammer and hammer. And if
But
we don't do that, I mean, that shit doesn't feel good, right? I'm not sitting here telling you, oh, we're gonna heal the divide between races with a shared narrative about class. Okay, like, oh, warm and fuzzy and great. I'm here to tell you, no, we have to go and fucking be like, these motherfuckers are stealing your shit, dude. It can't be about us. It should be about them and what they're doing. So, it's tough to get Democrats to want to do that. But like the prices, I mean, look, this guy's paying the price. People who didn't
yeah,
want to get mean in 24, don't even not want to hear this. Okay.
yeah,
But the reason that this man is sitting in that prison in an extraordinary rendition, a gay man in an El Salvadorian prison, is
yeah.
because we refused to do something that was a little mean. Yeah.
And Well, I'm going to slip in one last question if I can, because one of the areas that they hammered us, and it was a messaging success allegedly, was the whole they them advertisement or ad
Absolutely.
campaign against Kamala and so on. My instinct on that though is because they always hit Democrats on social issues like that, whether it is gay marriage or whatever, is that in a way to, and that will come up, I'm sure they'll use it again, but in a way, is it better to just turn that around and say, yes, we do stand up for trans rights? I mean, to flip it back rather than always be like, oh, well, it's complicated or she was following the law that at the time and get all mushy in our messaging, that when they hit us with something like that, whatever the next thing is, because they obviously don't really care about rights for women, it's just an easy punching point. Should we try and flip that and then hit back and go, yes, we do, and fuck you for
Yeah,
saying we
but that's
shouldn't?
not the kind of like flip back offense that you want. Because what are you doing? You're talking
You're
about the
still
topic they
reacting.
want to talk about, right? So, like,
Yeah.
they want to talk about, they want the conversation to be on trans people. So, if
Yep.
you did that kind of counter offense where you're like, you're damn right we are, well, you're still talking on the topic they want to do. And what my counter offense strategy is, no, no, no. They want the topic to be here. Let's bring
Mm,
the topic over here with a counterattack, right? So,
okay.
like, the way they're hitting us on trans shit, let's hit them that on dead kids in the classroom or, grandma being out on the street because they steal her social security, shit like that, right? That's counter offense because
Right.
otherwise you're still in that defensive role. But here's the thing, that was devastating because trans people make up 1% of the population, 2% of the population, okay?
Yeah.
We support trans people, but we cannot make their Democratic brand mean only that. And right now,
Yeah.
folks, the data don't lie. That's what our brand is. I told you there's one thing that voters know about us, and that's that we stand up for LGBTQ plus people. That's
Yeah.
it. They don't know about Social Security, Medicare, any of that shit. So every moment that we spend talking about trans rights and shit like that and whatever is a bad moment. Also, we're not immune from extremism. Okay,
Mm,
like we have our own extreme problem. Like the women in sports, the biological men in sports band guys, that has 85% approval. And do you want to know why? It's because yes, people can change their gender, they can add boobs and a penis or a vagina or whatever they're doing. And of course, I support their right to do that, to live in their true self. And I will even use their preferred gender pronouns. I am a very sensitive liberal person, okay?
yeah.
But actually, you cannot change heart and lung size, okay? Biological men have a bigger heart and lung and biological advantage in sports. So we can't have women who are, actually biologically men competing against biological women. You just can't do it. We're supposed to be the fucking science party. And I'm here to
Yeah.
tell you, go look it up on Google, okay? And no amount of like, gender reformation changes that basic biology. This is an 85% issue. The other thing, like our candidate Kamala Harris was asked, what would you do different than Joe Biden? Well, the obvious answer would have been, I would have acted quicker on the border. It's a problem that we have 3 million people coming across a year. Yes, we want to be the place where people come that are escaping asylum, but asylum is for religious, ethnic, and
Mm,
political persecution, not because your country is a shithole run by gangs, okay?
yeah.
And like she needed to be able to say that. In democratic world right now, the formal position basically is, well, no one's illegal. Well, I can tell you what, you want to win an election in America on that position, good fucking luck. And so like we have real extremism problems. The problem is those extremist positions are all that define us because that's what they do. They don't waste their comms money talking about how great they are. They spend their comms money shitting on us and making
Yep.
defining us around those two most extreme positions that we have, right? And
Mm,
we, meanwhile, let them pretend to be moderates. America thinks that the Republican Party is moderate. Okay. Like, and that's because we aren't returning fire, right? So, it is difficult to explain to liberals how rare you are in the
yeah.
American electorate from 2024. People who are willing to say, I'm liberal, 23% of the country. Okay.
Yeah.
Moderate was like 50 something and conservatives like 30. Okay. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's, there's not very many people like us. Okay. So
Mm,
like yes, in your liberal heart, there's no such thing as an illegal. Well, when you're a poor white person or a poor American of any race, because we saw
Yeah.
this Latino voters, and you're busting your ass every day working at Shake Shack or whatever it is, because we're all white
Yeah.
collar professionals, right? Like that shit is hard work. You're roofing, okay? And
Mm,
you hear on the news about migrants getting put in hotels and getting debit cards. Our law requires, because of the way the asylum law is written, that they be processed formally. That's the difference between Biden and Trump. Trump was ignoring the law. That's why they
yeah.
had the big flood. And then, our international and federal law requires that we care for those people. So what happens is a lot of times those people are getting more benefits than the poor
Yeah.
black people in Chicago are getting, right? And it
Yeah.
is bad, guys. So, like, I think people have kind of groupthinked on the issue of immigration quite a bit and really need to reassess. Like, are we
Mm,
really arguing that we should take as many people as possible every year when we have massive inequality and poverty issues here, and
yeah.
our electorate is saying, focus on me, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, well, I think we know there's so much better that can be done there, but then that's not what happens. And yeah, he goes on, right? I snuck in that
Yeah.
extra question, which I took you over the time I promised. You've started a podcast since we last talked, so that's exciting. So is that known as, because I know your Substack is The Cycle, and tell me about the podcast
Yeah,
before we
the
go.
podcast is hosted there. But you can also find it anywhere. It's called This Is America. And
Yep.
what it is I have been studying World War II for
Hmm.
5 years to prepare for this moment that I wanted to avoid. And luckily for me, now I'm really smart. So
Yep.
what it's doing is tying in this current fascist takeover of our government into what I learned about how the Nazis did it, and
Hmm.
other historical comparisons. And it's based on, as a shout out to my favorite reporter of all time. It was a man named William Shire, and he was based in Berlin after the Nazis had already seized power. So there was nowhere real free press anymore, but there were still foreign correspondents that covered Germany, Berlin, stationed in Berlin
Mm.
until the war started in 39. So we're talking about 6 years of like third Reich time period that has
Right.
basically been invisible to people. And that's what I'm bringing to life. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I'll have all that linked in the bio as well so people can find it. So it's great to catch up and always fun to talk and good reminder about staying on message. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
I would
And
much be rather having this conversation with me in London.
well, when
It
you
must be
come, we will
nice
have
not
that
to be
conversation.
stateside right now, right? I mean, love to be watching this from outside, right? But I got to tell you, if it looks scary from outside, folks, imagine being in the movie.
Well, yeah, you can probably by the time where the coffee prices are going, you can get a first class round trip ticket. Come here, we'll get you a cup of coffee, and then you'll be able
Do
to
they
afford to go
have
back.
coffee in the UK? Because, like, I can't do tea. I can't do that. I
They
can't.
do, and it's gotten much, much better. Yeah, when I first moved here
I mean, I
25
could
years
do
ago, it
tea
was
at 4
scary.
o'clock with you in a social way, but like
Yeah,
in terms of like day-to-day grind, like
yeah.
I need my espresso.
When I moved here, there was a lot of Nescafe instant coffee, and that
Ugh.
is, oh, I know. Don't even get. We don't. That's a whole different podcast,
You
Rachel.
actually made me shudder. Good job.
But thank you for coming on, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there we go. That was Rachel. What an incredible conversation. I just need to touch base with her every now and then to be reminded about how strong we have to be on messaging, how we cannot be distracted, how we cannot let the Republicans and the MAGA group redefine Democrats and liberals as they are so good at doing. The single message is there. Trump is destroying the economy. Trump is destroying the economy, and he's destroying things for you. Your coffee's going to go up. Your iPhone's going to go up. All of this is being impacted because of the choices that he has made. And in the meantime, he's also taking away your freedoms. And in the meantime, he's also destroying Social Security. And the meantime. So it's an incredible reminder of the things that we need to do. She's great to talk to. Make sure to check out her Substack, The Cycle. Listen to her podcast, This Is America. And if you haven't already, get her book, Hit 'em Where It Hurts. I really appreciate Rachel coming back on the podcast. I can't wait to talk to her again. Thank you to Mark, the producer, for putting this all together, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. See you later. Bye bye.